with the loss of my last daughter. Um, I never knew that things could get better after the loss of a baby. However, I found out that it could get better. Now, at the time, I didn't think that it could get better. I already had a child. Um, at the time, I was in my 20s, and um, it was a difficult situation. Um, the relationship I was in was an emotionally abusive relationship. Um, it started out horrible, the relationship, and it continued to be horrible and get worse every single day I was with that person. Um, and when you're in a difficult situation, it's hard to make um, a lot of right choices. Your mind is all over the place. You don't know um, what to do, where to go, who to turn to. So with um, my last pregnancy, um, I ended up getting sick. But the crazy thing is, at the time, I had a dream. I had a dream, and in the dream, this is while I was pregnant, and everything was going perfectly fine um, in my pregnancy prior to. And I had a dream, and I had my existing daughter. I was holding her hand on the left side, and she was very small at the time. I believe she was 3, 2.5, 3, if I can remember. This was years ago, years and years, years ago. I think over 17 years, 16 or 17 years ago. Can't remember. Um, and I was holding my daughter's hand, the one that's existing now, and but she was very young at the time, and I was pregnant. And in the dream, I was standing up, and it it's kind of interesting, which leads me to say, if you are a believer in God and you don't go to a church who will teach you to understand dreams. Now, not all dreams come from God, but when God warns you, that dream just sits on your spirit and it does not leave. And it sits on your spirit for a reason, because it needs to be handled, dealt with, seek further understanding for, and everything. But I was standing up, and in the dream, it's like a bus. My baby in the dream was standing up, and we all know newborn babies do not stand up on their own. All right, my baby was standing up between my legs. On the dream, I was standing up, like almost when you see a security guard standing up at the door, the way how they stand up with their legs apart, standing, and everything. Except I didn't have, my hand was holding my daughter, and a bus came. And we know in the natural, a bus, like a metro bus, or a bus that carry passengers. I call it metro because I live in Florida. Or a city bus, like I say, a city bus. A city bus cannot fit between your legs because it's too big. However, in the dream, the city bus came, and it passed between my legs, and it took down my baby who was between my legs, but my daughter, who was already alive, was fine. It was my daughter that was between my legs, and I didn't understand the dream. So let me just say this also. I was part of a church, right? And it was a Seventh-day Adventist church. I left that church because God drew me out of that church to go into another church that would help to foster what He's doing in my life, and to help me to get on track in understanding how to hear from Him and how to be led by Him, not only by the words that's in the Bible, but which is the written word, but also His revelatory word about what you need to do today, right now, in your life. And it was a hard time for me. And it came through in real life, even though it wasn't a bus that hit me. It was, it came out of nowhere though. Just like the dream of the bus, it came out of nowhere. I used to work in the hospital as a registered nurse, and I used to do 16-hour shifts. That's when nursing was 8 hours. So like I said, it was a long time ago, because new nurses, they don't know anything about those 8-hour shifts. I used to work 16 hours, that's 2 shifts, and I was fine. I used to work between 5 to 6 days a week and everything. And everything was perfectly fine. And then out of nowhere, I ended up getting a blood clot. And the crazy thing was, when I got the blood clot, I'm going to call places that people are aware of and everything, because I'm going to be transparent on here, because I know a lot of times we don't say the place, because this and that. I'm going to say the places. I'm going to say the places. I'm going to tell you that. I'm going to say the places. So, my leg overnight went from a normal feeling leg, my right leg, into almost like you're hitting on wood. My leg went from normal and soft to feeling like wood. It was hard. And I couldn't bend my knee. Circulation was not circulating. And I went to Jackson Memorial Hospital in Miami-Dade County, Florida. And when I went to Jackson Memorial Hospital, let me just say this. I was overweight. I think I was between 250 to 280 pounds. And let me just say, I've always been overweight since I was 8 years old. Not 250 pounds. However, I've always been considered obese since I was small. Always. It didn't just creep up. I've always been that way. So when I went to Jackson Memorial Hospital, now it's not giving Jackson an excuse, but however, for anyone who has been overweight for their entire life, everything is related to your weight. I don't care if you broke a toe, it's your weight. If something is in your eye, it's your weight. Okay, so I went to Jackson Memorial Hospital. They told me that I have sciatica, and they discharged me. I couldn't even walk. My sister had to pick me up from the hospital, and I had to limp out and hold on to the wall. I don't know if anyone ever tried walking without bending your knees at all. It's extremely difficult. And I was discharged, and I was in so much pain. I had to call my primary care physician, and the physician was Dr. Fox in Miami-Dade County, Florida. Fox Physicians and Associates. This doctor is no longer living. However, his sons are alive. He passed on. But thank God he was alive. And as soon as I called the doctor and the doctor spoke to me on the phone, not in person, on the phone, he says, I need you to get to my office immediately, right now. And as soon as I went in the office, he immediately sent me to ultrasound because he says, I know something is wrong because I worked for him at his hospital. I worked for him at his hospital, and he immediately did an ultrasound, and he immediately saw that my blood was clot in my legs because he did not waste any time. I love this doctor. He's no longer with us, but I love this doctor. This doctor could tell you when you're pregnant, without pregnant. This doctor was amazing. And when he found out, he immediately sent me back to the hospital that I worked at for him. And he admitted me. And through the grace of God, this doctor helped to save my life. However, during that process, his son came to visit me and everything, and his son was talking to me and letting me know, we have a choice because your baby is still young in your stomach, and your baby, essentially your body is not handling the pregnancy. And I know what he meant because they're a Jewish family. He did not say, well, let's, eliminate this child right here and now to save your life. However, he came and spoke to me. And because I did not want to eliminate the existence of my child, I don't know what word will get banned on YouTube, so I'm trying to be very careful with the words I'm using, to eliminate the existence of my baby while I was had a blood clot, and then I had pulmonary embolism and everything, and I had to go into the ICU, and they put me on medication. And once I got stabilized and I was able to bend my knee again, listen, I have never had that level of pain in my life. The pain when your blood stops, my blood was not flowing properly from my abdomen all the way down to my right leg. All of that, it wasn't circulating blood properly. So I was in extreme pain. I went into multi-organ failure. So my baby was not able to get perfused. She was not able to get proper circulation. I forgot. I'm trying to not use medical terminology either because I've been in the medical field for a very, very long time. My baby was not able to get circulation for a good while. They were able to stabilize me, though. I was able to bend my knee. I was on blood thinners, IV injection. I was on drip, heparin drip, which is a blood thinner. I was on injection through my stomach. It's kind of hard not using medical terminology. The medical terminology is once naturally flawed. And after I was stabilized, they sent me home. And however, once they sent me home, I was stabilized because the hospital, I have to go back in my memory because it was a long time ago, the hospital was not able to take care of people that are pregnant. So they needed me to transfer back over to Jackson, the first hospital I went to for help. And they told me I have sciatica instead of doing an ultrasound, and they would have found it early before it got so severe. And I almost lost my life. Right? So, but by the grace of God, I did not lose my life. My mom was a praying mom, and she stayed up and prayed for me. And I went to Jackson. Jackson admitted me, and I let them know when I went to the emergency room. I came to Jackson. I was in severe pain. I couldn't walk on my right side. Um, the doctor at that point told me that I had sciatica and discharged me. And I was in so much pain. I went to my primary. They found I had a blood clot. I had what's called deep vein thrombosis. I had what they call pulmonary embolism. Um, and he sent me back here because they're not equipped to take care of a patient that is pregnant. And as soon as I told him that, uh, I was admitted. I've never been. If anyone ever been to Jackson, the regular, not trauma, not rider trauma, because I've worked in rider trauma, the regular Jackson emergency room, you know how long you wait. And I've worked in the regular Jackson hospital also. You wait a long time in the emergency room. Thank God I've never worked in the emergency room myself. Thank you, Lord. But in the emergency room, you wait a very long time to get in. And I was admitted into Jackson. They had to put me back on a heparin drip. They had to continue to give me injections to thin my blood. So I was on two of them because it was that severe. When I said the blood was clotted, it was clotted all the way to the abdomen. It was clotted all the way to the mesenteric in the abdomen, coming all the way down to my toes. And everything. So since my organs wasn't getting circulation, I went to multi-organ, liver failure, kidney failure. I mean, everything. And at that time, the pain was so severe when I was in the first hospital. Usually, when you feel air conditioned, and it's hot, it feels so amazing on your skin. However, I found out that when your blood stops and there's no circulation and your body starts to fill with fluid to the point that your body feels like almost like stone, like there's no give in the body, that air and that wind feel like knives, dull knives, because everyone knows who cook, and I cook a lot. A sharp knife can cut you and you won't even know that you're cut until the wound starts to hurt because a foreign object, which includes water, goes into the wound. Then you feel the pain. But a really sharp knife, you do not feel it when you're cut. But a dull knife, on the other hand, oh, you feel it. So it's like dull knives, and I'm talking about millions of dull knives constantly cutting your skin, and the sheets from the bed feel like knives cutting into your, let me just say, your nerves are hyper sensitive because they're being compressed. And I didn't know that, but I found that out when I was going through it. So I was on pain medication I believe every 2 hours. Every 2 hours I was on pain medication because the pain was so severe. And not being able to urinate and everything. Not being able to poop. It just, anyone, organs not working. The organs not working. And after the loss, after all of that I've been through and everything, my daughter came early because my body could not hold her anymore. The placenta started to tear away from the wall of my uterus. So I started getting internal hemorrhaging. So I had to be rushed into surgery to remove her and everything. And she was born with blood clots. She lived 2.5 months and she passed on. And then I, of course, survived because I'm talking to you right now in 2026. But it was a long recovery road from that, from so much, from organ failure, from not having blood circulating and all of that. It was a long recovery road, but I thank God I made it. However, after the loss of my daughter, I went through severe postpartum depression. Um, I tried to unalive myself. One of the worst ways, taking Tylenol. So anyone who doesn't know, Tylenol removes you very, very painfully. It causes liver damage, which is very painful. So, and I don't know why I decided to take Tylenol to try to unalive myself. And I had to call because something in me just felt like you need help. So I had to call for my mom to help me, and my mom called a rescue, and they Baker acted me and everything. And rescue gave me the charcoal, the activated charcoal, which is a binding agent, to drink. And I drank the activating charcoal so the Tylenol would not do more damage to my already damaged organs. And I wasn't thinking about that because I was on a spiral, down, down. And postpartum hit me very hard. Recovery from organ failure, it was a lot on top of each other. And I didn't know that I could be healed and come back from that. But knowing for me that as I switched churches, remember I said I was in Seventh-day Adventist Church, as I switched churches to go into another church to find out how much God loves us, and more specific, me, because it was me going through that issue at that time. I had to know how much God loved me, that he would actually send me a warning that something very traumatic and unexpected was happening, and he made it very plain that it was going to affect my baby and everything. And I found out how much he loved me, and I found out that my daughter is literally in heaven waiting for me to be with her again. And that's one of the reasons when I talk about the loss of my daughter, and it's more than one child that I lost, and that's a whole nother story that we're not getting to. It's a whole anyway. My last daughter that I'm talking about right now, it encourages me and it lets me not go through depression, because I have a hope and a belief and a knowing that I'm going to see her again when I leave this earth for the final time, not to return. Why do I say for the final time, not to return? Because I went through another incident where my heart stopped. But by the grace of God, the doctor calls it a pause, so my heart wasn't beating. And I thank God, because I did not fall down or anything. I didn't even know that my heart paused and it wasn't, sending beats, because God kept me up and he kept me alive and he kept me awake. The only reason I know, because I had a monitor on my chest. But yeah, and I have this joy knowing that she's not here suffering from not having proper circulation for a very long period of time, and not having to struggle on this earth. Yes, I miss all of my kids who didn't make it on this earth. However, knowing that she is happy, knowing that she is with my mom, who accepted Jesus Christ as her Lord and Savior before she died, and repented and everything. Is it's a it allows me to not cry and go into depression, because a lot of people who have lost babies specifically, um, this is for you guys. That baby is so happy right now, and they cannot wait until they can see you again. And even as I'm saying it now, it's a smile on my face, because I can only imagine how free that experiences in heaven, and to be surrounded with that level of love around you is amazing. It's amazing. And I'm happy that even though she's not with me on this earth, and her name was Jocelyn. Even though Jocelyn is not with me on this earth, I am so happy that she's loved